Karen said my home gym was too loud, too ugly, and against the HOAS aesthetic. She tried to shut it down, but she didn't know I trained the mayor. The moment she found out, everything changed. Before I tell you how I turned Karen's crusade against my gym into a citywide embarrassment for her HOA. Make sure to subscribe to Her Stories. Tell me in the comments, what's something you built that others tried to tear down? I never thought a squat rack and a treadmill would start a neighborhood war, but in Maple Ridge, where appearances matter more than kindness, that's exactly what happened, and the spark was named Karen. I moved here 3 years ago, hoping for a quieter life after retiring from the military and transitioning into personal fitness training. I'd saved up enough to buy a small but beautiful home at the end of a cul-de-sac, a little farther from the main road so I could train a few private clients in peace. My garage was transformed into a pristine home gym, padded floors, polished, weights, soundproofed walls, and equipment that would make any fitness center jealous. It wasn't just my livelihood, it was my sanctuary, my therapy, and often, my gift to the people I helped, especially veterans, single parents, and older neighbors who couldn't afford a fancy gym membership. I trained everyone from busy mums, 2 wounded warriors, never charged the elderly, and even started a Saturday morning class for local teens who were struggling with confidence. The community loved it until Karen moved in. She came into our neighborhood with the usual Karen starter pack, perfectly trimmed hedges, passive-aggressive signs about dog poop, and a clipboard permanently glued to her arm. Within a week of her arrival, she became head of the HOA. Despite being new, no one even remembered voting. Suddenly, rules changed. Lawn gnomes were outlawed, recycling bins had to be hidden, American flags could only be flown on national holidays. And then she saw my gym. It was during one of my early morning training sessions with Tom, a retired firefighter rehabbing a shoulder injury. We had the garage door up halfway to let in air, and though there was no music, Karen stomped across my driveway like a marching judge. "Excuse me," she barked, "but this is a residential neighborhood, not a Gold's Gym." I smiled politely, wiping sweat from my forehead, and told her this was my private space. All equipment was inside, and we followed noise codes. "Still," she snapped, "it's unsightly. It lowers property values. You'll need to shut it down immediately." I laughed, thinking it was a joke. It wasn't. The next day, I received a formal HOA violation notice, operation of commercial business from residential property, citing bylaws that hadn't existed 2 months ago. I knew she had them written just to target me. I tried reasoning with her at the next HOA meeting, presenting signatures from 20 neighbors who supported the gym, sharing testimonies from elderly folks who said my free training changed their lives. Karen didn't care. "This isn't about community," she said coldly. "It's about standards." She claimed the mayor's office was investigating complaints. That's when I knew she had no idea who I really was. See, what Karen didn't know was that I wasn't just any trainer, was the trainer for our city's mayor, Julian Vega. I'd been helping him privately for over a year after he suffered a heart attack. The gym she was trying to destroy had helped him lose 40 pounds and avoid a second one. We met 3 mornings a week at 5:30 a.m. inside that very garage, but I wasn't about to use that connection just yet. I wanted to see how far she'd go. A week later, I found a city citation posted to my door. Karen had filed an anonymous complaint to the zoning board, claiming I had built an unauthorized commercial structure. She even emailed videos of suspicious activity, grainy footage of elderly folks doing chair squats and stretching bands. She printed out photos of my garage and handed them out at the HOA meeting like they were mugshots. Her campaign was nasty, loud, and relentless. My clients started getting nervous. Some neighbors avoided me. Even the teens I mentored pulled back, not wanting their parents dragged into drama. Rachel, one of my longtime clients and a local teacher, broke down crying after Karen accused her of aiding an illegal operation just for attending a morning fitness session. I could see the damage. Karen wasn't just targeting me, she was trying to isolate me, break me down, ruin my name. But I didn't train for decades, lead teams in war zones, and build myself back from trauma just to be bullied by a clipboard queen in yoga pants. I decided then I wouldn't just survive her attacks. I'd dismantle her campaign, expose her hypocrisy, and rebuild stronger. And I knew exactly who could help me do it: Mayor Vega himself. But I wasn't just going to make a phone call. I was going to make a statement so public, so undeniable, that the entire neighborhood and Karen would never forget who they tried to silence. I waited for the perfect moment, not for revenge, but for justice. And that moment came just 2 weeks later during the Maple Ridge Community Health and Wellness Fair, an annual event organized by the city in partnership with local HOAs, which Karen eagerly took over as the lead planner. The fair was set to be hosted in the neighborhood park, and Karen was all over the flyers, the banners, even the microphone list. She envisioned herself as the polished face of Maple Ridge Wellness, handing out pamphlets about smoothie recipes and low-sodium cooking. Meanwhile, she was trying to destroy the one person in the community actually improving people's health. That's when I put my plan into action. Quietly, I contacted Mayor Vega and explained the situation, sending him scanned HOA letters, the video clips Karen had distributed, and the city citation she triggered through a fabricated complaint. He was furious, not just as my client, but as someone who genuinely cared about public health. He agreed to speak at the fair. But not only that, he asked if I'd be willing to set up a live demonstration of my fitness program during the event. I nearly laughed. "You want me to set up the gym she's trying to shut down?" "Exactly," he said. "Let's show them what she's trying to erase." The day of the fair, I arrived early and rolled out rubber flooring on the pavilion stage, setting up kettlebells, medicine balls, resistance bands, and a giant banner reading "Free Training. Strong neighborhoods start here." My clients came in droves. Rachel brought her entire third-grade class. Tom, the retired firefighter, wore a "Karen Can't Lift This" t-shirt, and even my teen group wore matching hoodies that said "Garage Strong." Karen didn't notice any of this at first. She was too busy posing in front of a smoothie stand with a photographer she'd hired. But when the mayor's motorcade arrived, she rushed to greet him, all smiles and handshakes, until he walked right past her and came directly to me. "James," he said loudly, shaking my hand like I was a hero. "Can't wait for the demo. This man saved my life." "Folks." Karen froze. Her smile dropped so hard I swear I heard it hit the sidewalk. People turned, cameras clicked, and when the mayor stepped on stage with a mic and publicly thanked me for not only transforming his health, but for offering free training to veterans, kids, and seniors, Karen's face turned a color I'd never seen before. "This gym," he said, pointing to the equipment, "helped me become a better mayor, and I hear someone's been trying to shut it down." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Karen, red-faced, tried to speak, but the mayor cut her off. "If anyone has a problem with this gym, they have a problem with me. And if HOA leadership is misrepresenting the law or fabricating violations against honest citizens, they should step down." You could feel the shift instantly. Her power, her presence, everything deflated in one public moment. I stepped forward then and conducted a group class right there. Rachel lead stretches. Tom did modified burpees. Even the mayor joined in. The crowd was cheering. News cameras caught everything. Karen disappeared halfway through the class, and later that day, I found her HOA Facebook group temporarily disabled. But I wasn't done. I filed a formal grievance with the city zoning board, attaching all the false claims she made, including her fabricated bylaws. Turns out, she had illegally modified the HOA charter by bypassing board votes twice. Gloria, a retired lawyer who lived 2 streets over, helped me file a class action complaint on behalf of every resident Karen had bullied, fined, or threatened with letters. 1 week later, the board held an emergency vote and unanimously suspended Karen from all leadership roles pending an internal review. That didn't stop her from spiraling. She started posting long rants on Nextdoor and community forums about how the HOA was under attack by lawless media. But she didn't expect the backlash, because this time, everyone was watching. My neighbors rallied. The mayor issued a public statement of support. One of the teens I trained, Marcus, wrote a heartfelt blog post about how my gym saved him from depression. It went viral. Suddenly, Karen wasn't feared anymore. She was pitied, ridiculed, and more importantly, powerless. The city dropped all false citations against me, and the HOA board, now free from her grip, invited me to consult on a new neighborhood wellness initiative. I accepted, but under one condition: that we enshrine a clause in the new charter guaranteeing residents the right to non-commercial personal use of home spaces for health and community benefit. It passed. Karen tried to object at the public hearing, but the microphone cut off before she could finish her first sentence. The crowd laughed. Some clapped. I didn't even need to say a word. My garage gym, it became an icon. Donations poured in. I expanded it, soundproofed it better, and added an outdoor area that residents helped build. And every morning, I trained, with pride, knowing that I didn't just protect what I built, I helped reclaim a community from a tyrant armed with nothing but a clipboard and a fake smile. Asterisk. The final blow came not with a shout, but with a whisper, one that swept through Maple Ridge like a warm wind after a storm, cleansing everything Karen had so thoroughly poisoned. The HOA, now restructured and led by a group of actually elected, reasonable residents, launched a formal audit of all her actions during her self-appointed reign. They found forged meeting minutes, altered rule documents, and several private complaints she'd handled internally that had never been reported to city oversight. Gloria, our neighborhood legal pitbull in pearls, brought everything to the city attorney's office. And while I stayed mostly silent through the process, I was asked to submit a written testimony, which I did, factual, composed, and blisteringly honest. I didn't ask for her punishment to be harsh. I just asked for it to be fair. In the meantime, something strange happened. My gym became a symbol. People from outside our neighborhood started visiting just to take photos. A local news story, titled "The Garage That Broke the HOA Bully," aired and gained traction. I started getting calls from fitness trainers across the state who were dealing with their own Karens, asking how I stood my ground. And though I never intended it, I became a kind of advocate, not just for gym rights, but for dignity, for community, for the idea that people have a right to build something personal and meaningful, without being trampled by petty power. Meanwhile, Karen was drowning in silence. Her Facebook page, once a firehose of HOA threats and Karen's tips for community excellence, went dark. She tried starting a blog about restoring order in the suburbs, but comments filled with memes and public records links about her suspension killed it in a week. Her husband, whom we'd rarely seen, quietly moved out. The "for sale" sign on her front lawn popped up shortly after. Some said she was moving to Florida. Others said her sister in another town was taking her in. All I knew was this: her house, once pristine and menacing, now sat empty and hollow. And right across the street stood my gym, alive, buzzing, and full of laughter. But it didn't end there. 2 months after Karen's departure, I received a letter from the mayor's office. They were launching a citywide Healthy Homes pilot program, an initiative to encourage residents to turn garages, sheds, or spare rooms into community wellness spaces. The blueprint for it, my garage. Mayor Vega himself mentioned it in the press release. We were inspired by a veteran who turned his private gym into a public good, despite efforts to shut him down. That's the kind of neighbor we all deserve. They asked me to serve on the advisory board. I accepted, of course. And at the first city council event where I was introduced, I saw something I hadn't expected. Tom, Rachel, Marcus, Gloria, even the teens and elderly neighbors I'd trained. They stood and applauded. For me, for what we'd all built together. It wasn't about revenge anymore, it was about legacy. Karen had tried to destroy something because she couldn't control it, but in doing so, she created a wave so strong it carried us further than we ever planned to go. My gym now had a mural painted by the teens, bright, bold colors showing people of all ages lifting each other up, literally and figuratively. At the center was a man with a clipboard, crossed out in cartoon style, with the words, "Not today." Karen. It made everyone smile. And every time I unlocked that garage door, early in the morning with the dew still fresh on the grass, I felt something bigger than muscle or pride. I felt peace. I felt purpose. I felt the echo of every person who had ever been told they weren't allowed to grow, stretch, or rise in their own space, and I smiled, knowing I'd turned my fight into their flag. Karen tried to ban my home gym. Now, that gym helps run the city, and her name, just a joke at the bottom of a mural, fading into the past, exactly where it belongs.